Antisocial Butterfly Podcast. We are here to inspire dreams and help you spread your wings to fly. Baby girl, it's okay to be shy. But now it's time to kiss fear goodbye.
Hi. Hey, it's so great for you to officially be on Antisocial Butterfly Podcast. When you said yes to coming on, I was so stoked because I have never had a fellow podcast host on the podcast, and you get it. You're a fellow podcast host, and I don't meet a lot of fellow podcast women out there who have their own podcast. So when I heard you had your own podcast, I immediately was drawn to you. So you have a podcast, which is called Keeping It Casual Podcast, which you call a more than a sex positive podcast. I want to know a little more about what that is. So tell me a little bit about your podcast and what sort of amazing topics do you cover on there?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of that intro. And honestly, when you came up and you were like, let's do a swap cast, I was so down because I'm the type of person that's like, I'm always thinking about business and podcasting and this like right off the top. So when you're like, I do a podcast, I was like, you have to be on each other somewhere. And then you suggested it. And I was like, yes, because at the end of the day, like you're correct, very hard to meet female podcast host because the podcasting world, I mean, your husband's a comedian, comedy world, everything, all these worlds are so male driven. So it's so great to meet females out in the world too. My podcast started in 2018. Right now I'm a solo podcaster, but we started off as a duo. Former podcast co-host, still business partner, MJ still does events and stuff with me. And Keeping It Casual started as just like, I would go into her studio because we both work in radio, and we would have lunch together and we would eat salad, just like tell these saucy stories from our lives. And I was like really in the dating scene at the time, and I would tell her like my crazy dating stories. I was doing a project called Why Did I Date Him? And trying to figure out why we date some of the losers that we date as women.
Okay, immediately already subscribe.
Yes. And she was doing a podcast called Sharing Secrets, and I went on as her online dating expert. From there, I kind of realized that neither of our projects were really taking off, so we came together and Keeping It Casual was born.
From just a simple conversation at a table and just sharing what you guys were going through and sharing passion projects and thoughts, that idea was born. So I love that you covered that, because I did wonder if you had still the co-host on there. So right now it's mainly run by you, and you hold the podcast still last Wednesday of the month.
Yes, last Wednesday of the month. We were doing every Wednesday, and I was thinking about bringing it back every Wednesday or even like bi-weekly, but the way my schedule is, one podcast a month is really all I can give right now. But who's to say I won't come back, for 4 a month or whatever. It's just right now, because I'm doing so much outside of podcasting too with my job, that I just need to like be able to take a breath and still have a social life at some point too.
Hey, we're big on here on setting boundaries and self-care. Yes. And so the fact that you have established that, knowing that you have outside other priorities and responsibilities, but yet you still have this passion project and you want to spread this message. So thank you for dedicating still once a month to that, because it could be zero and we're not getting the message that you mainly talk about, which is a field that a lot of people don't dive into, because we'll talk about that because of why, and people don't really share about it. But I love that you dedicate at least once a month to it, because again, it could be zero. So it's with you only, and it's held every last Wednesday of the month. And so the topics that you share about, that's what I was interested to. And I checked out some of your episodes. So for the listeners that have never heard about your podcast, what are some of the top 5 or 3 topics that you share about on your episodes?
I have to say there was one episode we did, which is probably one of my all-time favorite episodes. It's about your sex personality type. There's 11 sex personality types that this therapist, Vanessa Marin, came up with. And it's kind of like your love language almost, but your sexual love language. So we went through and we read through them. We took the quiz each. We announced, like, we kind of went through them on the episode as to what our sex personality types were, and then like learning that makes you learn who you are as a partner, so and it makes you learn who your partner is as a partner and how you guys can mesh well sexually in bed. Another big topic I'm big on bringing up all the time is consent. Consent, yes.
Okay. Ooh, very sensitive topic.
it is. It took me to year 3 or no, year 2, a little over 2 years for me to even dive into an episode on consent, because as women, we've all been through crazy shit. And then finally one day I was like, we have to do it. It was kind of after all the Marilyn Manson stuff started coming out that I was like, all right, we need to talk about consent more than just me being like, oh, you need to do this as consenting adults. I always like have that little asterisk when I talk about sex and what consenting adults do.
Right, because that could be, what is that definition for you, right? And knowing what that is, well, first of all, what the law defines as consent, and then finding out what ultimately that is for the person that you're gonna have whatever with. But yeah, that's very, very, very interesting.
So we did that episode, which is another great tearjerker episode. We talk a lot about mental health too, because I'm very open with my mental health struggles and my anxiety and, you know, everything that comes with that, and depression and life, man. I mean, I was talking about this on my friend Laura's podcast, where we were talking about how, like, they always say kids are so resilient, and then we're like, but then why as adults are we all in therapy? Ha 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 ha. So I'm very open to talking about that type of stuff too.
They're connected for sure. When I was looking at your field or the topics that you talk about with sex and being sex positive, that's definitely, like, in my world, not in, well, when I say my world, I mean my culture, like in the Hispanic world, you're taught to not mention it, hush hush, like it's really buried down deep into the waters. And so the fact that you have a platform that you're trying to make it like okay, and it is connected to mental health, like the fact that you can be confident with your sex life, that's part of your life. And if you don't feel great at that part of your life, then the others are going to trickle in and be affected as well, I feel.
That's true. And you know, what's interesting is my entire family is Latina, and I'm not. Yes, but my whole family. This is just something crazy about me. So I understand growing up in that type of sex negative kind of culture where it's like, you don't talk about it, and then, you know, all my cousins are pregnant at 17, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe we did something wrong here.
Yeah, that is so true. Did not know you were Latina. Tell me where your roots.
I'm not. Oh, my whole family is.
Oh, your family. Okay. So what are your roots from your family?
I'm Spaniard and indigenous North American. So
got it. Okay.
Yeah. And German. And then
and German. You're like, and
German. And German. I don't like to talk about the German side, but that's there too. My cousins are all either Cuban or Mexican.
Got it. Okay. No, so true.
And German.
And German. And German. Can't forget the and German part.
And German.
It's part of your blood, girl. That 23andMe doesn't lie.
No, it doesn't.
So when you mention sex positive and breaking that barrier of sex negative, what does sex positive mean to you?
I just want people to feel comfortable being themselves as a sexual being and doing what they think feels right to them. If it doesn't feel right, you don't have to do it. It doesn't matter how much somebody says, but please do this for me. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. That's a part of sex positivity, is being able to set that boundary and say no. And also just, you know, we get a lot of listeners that write in and just be like, you know, especially through pandemic, you know, their marriages were like, we're not even connecting with each other because, you know, we're spending too much time with each other, or we're doing this or we're doing that. So it's just learning how to re-love your partner again and ignite that passion. You can't ignite passion with your partner if you don't have that passion inside yourself first. So it's all about how we said at the top of the show, like having the mental health right to get everything going elsewhere.
Can you talk about how your passion for this topic came from?
You know what's crazy is I used to sell sex toys.
Okay, here in Vegas?
Yes, here in Vegas. I used to sell sex toys, and I would meet all these women who were like very ashamed to own a vibrator. And then all these men were like, this is going to replace me. And I was like, no. We need to educate people on how sex toys can enhance a marriage. So I started teaching that type of stuff. And then I stopped and focused on other things in my life. At the time I stopped, I was going to esthetician school to be a makeup artist and to do skincare and everything.
Okay, so that's where the makeup. See, I know when people know makeup or love makeup of some sort or just practice it on the low key. And when I met you at the comedy club, aside from your style, the makeup. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, I saw your makeup too, and I was like, "What's up?"
What's up? Hey, I see you.
Exactly. So I was going to esthetician school, so I had to stop like teaching my sexual wellness stuff. When MJ and I started keeping it casual, we didn't necessarily mean it to be a sex positive podcast or a sex podcast even. We were just talking about the realness of life. And a lot that comes with life is relationships and sex and everything with that. And our listeners just started emailing us questions like, hey, this weird thing happened in my relationship, or hey, this weird thing happened in my sex life. And we're like, well, we're not experts, but okay, we have opinions. Yeah, we got opinions. And then it ended up like having me get certified as a human sexuality specialist. Like later on down the line, I was like, well, I guess I can become an expert in this now. I didn't even get my go to school for it to get my human sexuality certification until we were 2.5 years in. We had already, and it just kind of like our fan base just kind of pushed me and MJ into doing it. We were like, well, shit, we might as well put some letters behind our names. Our fan base, our keepers are amazing. Like we've done multiple sold out live shows. We got to host Don't Tell Comedy. We've done like speed dating events. We did a singles night most recently. I mean, and everything we do, we sell out because our listeners are just amazing. And I mean, we have our listener base here in Las Vegas, but we also have a lot of listeners around the world. Back in into February, we did a sold out single mix and mingle where we hosted and we got a bunch of singles together, and it was at the front yard at Ellis Island, and we played games with our singles. We had them, play, I think they played Heads Up. We did our getting to know you game, a few of our getting to know you questions. We did Spotlight the Single Person, and yeah, it was pretty successful. I think the restaurant was happy with the bar tab because our people come out and they come to drink. So
heck yeah. I mean, have a good time, right?
Exactly. So yeah, just stuff like that. And then we've done 2 live podcast events too that we sold out, where we just are recording, but we bring anybody who's in the audience who's willing to come up and talk. We bring them up. I have to learn how to be less of a nervous public speaker.
For you to even, number one, talk about the topics that you talk about, but then people could say the same thing about me, or like you're putting yourself out there. I can never do that. But regardless, doing this is, I'm shitting in my pants and now my armpits are sweating, right? But people don't see that, right? So you, and then doing the shows, I would consider you an extrovert.
I am an introvert, or an extroverted introvert, I would say, because I definitely am very extroverted. I'm very like, do you watch Parks and Rec?
I haven't been a faithful watcher, but yes, I know about the show. I've seen a few episodes. So yeah,
I always say I'm half Leslie Knope, Amy Poehler's character, and half April Ludgate. Half Leslie, half April. That's who I am, because I'm very friendly. I'm very outgoing with the right people, and it tends to be women I find myself so much more calm and comfortable around, because girls are my sisters at the end of the day. Men who I know their game don't intimidate me, and men in relationships definitely don't intimidate me, because it's obviously like, okay, we can just be cool, we can just be friends. But if there's a guy I like or I think is hot, I don't even know how to approach him. Like, all that confidence I have inside myself goes away, and I'm like hiding behind a bush somewhere. I'm like, oh, he's cute, can't talk to him.
Oh my gosh, that's so insane. Yeah, that principle of like the doctor giving the advice of his patient and him just like eating like crap and going to McDonald's at lunch all the time. So it's just interesting how that works. So, like, let's just picture you going up to a person that you like, right? Like, and you're like, oh my God,
I don't approach people I like.
You don't approach people that you like. You let them approach you only.
If I'm like looking at a relationship situation, oh no. Well, like if I see a cool girl, I'm like, hey, what's up, girl? Let's be friends. Like, if it's a guy I think is like super hot, I'm like, they'll talk to me if they want to.
I truly believe the things that you tell yourself in any situation beforehand in the moment may not seem like it's helping, but it does. Even if it just calms the nerves when you're doing the action. Because I say, for me, it's helped the beforehand of going into the podcast. Maybe now I sweat a little less, right? Like, now I don't have to put my armpits on the fan as much. I mean, now it's just a minute as opposed to 10 minutes before.
You know what's so funny is, like, you say that you get really nervous about talking to people and stuff, but I felt like when you approached me and you had your cute little doggy, I felt like it was all very natural and everything was so cool and calm.
Oh, maybe because she was around. I don't that I get that. And maybe the alcohol, I don't know, maybe it was your energy too.
There was a lot of free alcohol that night.
You know, around the comedy scene. it tends to happen.
There are times that I'll be there and it'll be like, hey Brie, here's the shot for you. And I'm like, did I order it? Like, what happened?
You subconsciously like put that out there, and they're like, they already knew. But
they're
you're
like, where's the tequila you thought about 12 seconds ago? It's like Facebook ads. They just know it.
There you go. That's how those bartenders at the comedy club work. Yeah. So it may have been the dog, your energy too. So this is me. I have to, I want to approach somebody, it's easier for me to say, okay, is there something that they're wearing that I can compliment them easily? Because naturally I just don't go up to anybody just to say hi. So I remember there was one night you were wearing a black hat that I really liked, and you were matching it really well with your outfit. And I approached him like, I like to compliment fashion. That's just something I'm drawn to.
Me too.
So that was an easy in for me. Hi, I like your hat. What's your name? So then we met it was maybe a few weeks after at the same comedy club.
The opening.
Yes. And then that's when we had the opportunity. We vibed. The podcast mention happened, and now we're here. So thank you ultimately to LA Comedy Club for making this situation happen. So when you told me you had, like, again, a podcast, I'm like, I don't know if you probably remember, but my eyes like,
oh yeah, you were like, oh, me too.
I just wanted to like hug you and like, oh my God, just know about everything about your podcast. And when I researched you too, when I was looking at your podcast, what I love about you too is that you connect with other podcasters. You collab with them, either you on their podcast or they come on your podcast. So the fact that you collab with other women or just any podcasters in any field is amazing. How do you connect with other people and bring them on to your podcast? Is it just simple like how we met, or how do you usually find your guests?
A lot of it is in the field. A lot of it is just like walking up to somebody who looks cool and being like, hey, what's up? But actually, like my friends who I've had on of the Muses podcast, I was a big fan of their podcast. And then we found out we had the same writing mentor. And then I started keeping it casual. And then they came out here for our big writing workshop. And we were like, let's be on each other's podcasts. It's crazy because I had just messaged them out of the blue. And I was like, oh my God, you guys write with Pamela DeBar. So do I. Like, let's be friends. And then we just started following each other's lives on social media. And then finally, probably like 3 years into their podcast, 1.5 years into mine, we met in person. And I was just like, I love you both so much already. So for me, it's just big on like, I don't mind messaging somebody who doesn't know me and being like, hey, look, I have this podcast. I think you're great. I would love to have you on as a guest. Cause what's the worst they can do? Just be like, ignore you.
Exactly.
Okay, fine.
The worst thing. Yep.
Yeah. Fine. Okay.
They're not going to screenshot your message.
No, they're not going to
blast
put you on blast.
Say,
exactly.
Hey, I'm said no to this person. They reached out. Ha ha ha. In our minds, in my mind.
In my mind too.
That's going to happen.
In my mind too. Like I'm sitting here like, oh, what's the worst that could happen? But when I send that message, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to hate me.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
One of the most nerve-wracking interviews I ever prepared for was Prince's first wife, Maite Garcia. She owns an animal rescue out here in Las Vegas, and her PR person reached out to us because I've known her PR person for years. So as MJ and I are prepping this episode, we're like, we can't just talk about Prince and we can't just talk about her dating Tommy Lee. We have to let her kind of bring these things up on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And we met her at not downtown Summerlin. Not the one it's kind of by Boca Park. What's that place? Tivoli Village. So we met her at Tivoli Village, and MJ and I got there like an hour before we were supposed to meet with her because we wanted to prepare. And all of a sudden it was like seriously like a minute past the time she was supposed to meet up with us. We're like, she's not coming. She's not coming. She's not going to show up. Why would she show up for us? And then she walked in the door and it was like this angel came
all
up,
this music playing in the background.
Yes, exactly. She ordered a white wine and we had a drink and we talked with her and she showed us the little dog she had with her, and then we went to the spot where we like to record at Tivoli Village and we recorded with her, and then we told her, we were like, we'll only keep you for like 45 minutes tops. And then once 45 minutes hit, she was like, no, I want to keep going. And I was like so honored to have her in my presence, and she was so sweet and she was such a good one. Everybody else I've been totally fine with, but hers I was so nervous for. I mean, I got to interview Lindsley Allen, who was one of the creators of the original Pussycat Doll burlesque group. There used to be a show at the Hooters Casino, and Lindsley Allen had the show after it called Cherry Boom Boom, and it was a rock and roll burlesque show. And so when she premiered that show, I had her on my podcast, and she came back 3 times. And every time she was like, hey, I have this new thing I'm trying to promote. Can I come on your podcast? And I was like, yes, please.
Yeah, anytime. You're more than welcome to.
Mm-hmm.
So on that one that you were so nervous about when you see her walk in and you're like, and you get there an hour earlier, is there something that you learned that it carried over to your future podcast episodes?
Yes, it was just, believe, as long as you are prepared and you do everything with grace, then people are going to like you. Like, I had never met this woman beforehand, and she walked in and she's gorgeous and she's Prince's first wife. I mean, come on.
Yeah, of course.
She wrote a New York Times best-selling book, and I was just, you don't need to hype people up in your mind either, because at the end of the day, we're all just humans, and this is all just a lark, and we're all connected in some way or another.
If you put that in perspective in any conversation you go into, any situation, it hopefully would bring you a little less anxiety and more peace over anything. Prep work, yes, I preach on that every time on myself, and it's great that you do that too, because it just helps you in the moment. The content that you put on your podcast, I wanted to talk about because you're truly, how I see it, an expert in this field. And it's, I mean, who else is talking about this in my world? But sexual health can be something that shown as something that you should have fear about or shame. Mm-hmm. How would you say someone listening what can they do? Because ultimately you can only control what you do, not what people do.
Yeah.
What can you do in your personal capability to make it a more comfortable conversation to have sex conversations with your partner or just people in your circle?
That's a really good question. I've never felt, as an adult, I've never felt shame talking about sex with people, and I don't know why. I don't know. I think I do know why. Actually, I do know why. I've talked about it a little on the podcast. I was sexually assaulted at 19 years old by an ex-boyfriend, and I went celibate for about 5 years because of it, and I didn't talk about sex, and I hated everything about my body and everything about myself. And then I did a complete 180 or 360, and I became a groupie. Yeah, I became a groupie in my 20s and just didn't care. I was just like, I want to regain myself back. And becoming a groupie and having those years of just like not serious boyfriends, messing around, doing this, doing that, doing whatever it is I wanted to do, helped me learn who I was as a sexual being. And that led into a relationship where I was engaged to this guy who was very sexually repressed. And
what does that mean, sexually oppressed?
He was extremely religious and didn't believe in sex outside of marriage, even though we had sex outside of marriage. I don't even know how to explain this. And he didn't believe that anybody was actually gay or on the LGBT. Everybody's straight. You're just pretending to be gay. He would say stuff like this to me.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, very straight, narrow-minded. Latino traditional Latino man.
Macho.
You know what I mean? And so having like going from nothing to everything to nothing again, and not being able to talk about sex with that partner who I was engaged to, made me realize that like I will never put myself in that situation again. And ever since then, sex has been a very comfortable topic to me. And that's when I started teaching sexual wellness to women and how to incorporate vibrators into it. Question of how to talk to your partner about it. First, you have to be comfortable talking to yourself about it. I speak to females because most of my fan base is females. I'm sure most of your fan base is females too. Be comfortable talking to your girlfriends about it.
Nice, comfortable space for you to bounce off these thoughts that you're having.
Yeah. So you start with yourself, then go to your girlfriends, and then eventually you'll be, it's hard. It really is hard to talk to a partner about sex. It really is. But one of the best ways that I always say to talk about sex is talk about your sexual boundaries. Like, I love it when you do this to me. Like, that's a great thing to talk. Because like once you say like, I love it when you just lay next to me and rub my back. That's a good way to start it. You know, start off, it doesn't even have to be sexual. Start off with just touch. I love the way you kiss. And then the conversation can progress from there. And if you need to have a conversation about sexual boundaries, so to speak, like, you know, I really like that we're doing this, but I'm not ready to do this yet.
Yeah. And that's great. Good tips. And why do you think it's hard for some people to, their partner should be the person that they should feel the most comfortable with, but yet a simple mention of this is what I like, or can you do this? It's really hard. Why do you think that is for couples or just anybody in a relationship?
Because we've been oppressed for so many years, especially as women. Women were not allowed to talk about sex for the longest time. I mean, if you think about it, really the past less than 25 years have women really spoke out about sex. I remember when Sex in the City first started in like 99, maybe 97. Yeah. That was like the first show like that where women were like just fucking for the sake of fucking and, you know, talking about it. And it just wasn't something we were allowed to do. Now we are. And I think it helped us. I think we have a long way to go, but we're finally at a place where we're able to do it. And we were always able to do it, but you know, we're finally at a place now where we're starting to get comfortable doing it. And I do go to Sex in the City, and then there's a lot of like podcasts that are just anti-slut shaming, because I can even think back in my past when I was in my early 20s, like the slut shaming that I would hear from myself.
Men are looked differently, but you know, men can do it, but women are then they do it there, then they have a title, they have a something, and that they call a slut.
Exactly. And I think we are all taught to be misogynists at very young ages, and we have to grow out of that. And it's just the way society has taught us. We're taught to be misogynistic. And we're taught that women are just supposed to be these hot, quiet sexual beings. If you think about it, even in advertising and stuff, do you remember those Carl's Jr.'s ads where the girls would like have their chi-chis out everywhere and they'd be eating the burger all seductively?
Oh yeah,
It's
Paris Hilton did one. Kim Kardashian. My husband Freddie, I laughed because he did a reenactment of Kim Kardashian doing it like to the T, and I'm like, oh
nice.
my! He remember him eating like a spoiled salad, and he almost vomited in the bathtub. I'm like, oh my god, all for this video. But anyways, yes, you're right. Like they're not talking in those videos. They're just showing off their bodies and eating a burger like sexually.
And women are taught to be over sexualized, but not actually talk about sex. Like it's the Madonna horror complex completely. It's all it is. And we're all taught that as society from a very young age. So what kind of happened to me and how I started rewiring my brain was I was listening to Dan Savage's podcast for a long time before I had even thought about starting a podcast. And I had read Dan Savage's books and stuff. And he's just this like gay man in a polyamorous relationship and just had all these ideas about relationships and sex and this and that were like so off the wall for me. And I was like, wait, you can just, it's okay to do that? Wait, you have more than one partner at the same time and you're still committed to your husband? None of this makes sense to me. Two of my very good friends, they're a polyamorous couple. And like, I'm just like, how do you guys not like want to kill each other's other partners? Like, tell me everything. Anytime I hang out with them, I'm like, because they'll go to like sex parties together and like hook up with all these other people in front of each other. And I'm like, and then they'll be like, and I love you so much. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, totally different understanding.
Relationships are so complicated, whether you're open or closed or whatever. So I love learning about the intricacies of everybody's relationships. And it's not just romantic relationships. Friendships are relationships that are so intricate. And, you know, at the end of the day, I need my good friends and my girlfriends more than any partner I've ever had.
The tips that you give, like, because they are relationship like based, they could be applied not just for your partner, but you can take some of it for even any relationship, because what overall it's communication, it's getting to know you and really being self-aware. So that's getting the inner dialogue in your head. What is that all about? And then just ultimately being assured of who you are, setting the boundaries, and just having the conversations and getting more comfortable and just rewiring that brain. That is going to take a long time, because it's years and years and years, well, however old you are, years and years and years of trying to just rewire how you've been taught sex is. And with being sex positive, there is thankfully podcasts out there like yours that are spreading that message of a different narrative of how to see sex. You mentioned one, that a podcast or several that you listened to that maybe was around before you started your own. Is there one that recently you just listened to, and why did you listen to it?
I've been able to listen to Guys We Fucked again, because they went onto a network where you had to pay and I didn't pay for it. So they're finally like widespread again. So I've been getting back into Guys We Fucked and I'm so excited about it. I love them.
I love that one. That's with two girls, right?
Yeah. Corinne Fisher and Christina Hutchinson.
Yes,
I love
it.
Yes. There was a comedy fest out here in Vegas called the Crapshoot Comedy Festival back in it was 2017, because it was right before I went to Australia, actually. So they came out here for the comedy festival and they did a Guys We Fucked live show. And I was like, have to buy tickets, have to go. These two girls are like my heroes. This was before I ever thought of starting a podcast, but they were, they knew their voices and they were so confident and sure of themselves. They made me feel like I was confident and sure of myself and like I could be that person too. So they do this live show, and one of the bits is that they were like, we need somebody in the audience who has a really shitty relationship story to tell. And then from there, they were gonna prank call your ex-boyfriend or your ex.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, me, because at the time I was getting over a broken heart of a guy that on the podcast we call him the British prick.
Because the British prick. Okay.
Yes. What happened with the British prick is I was so madly in love with this guy. And on my birthday, he sends me a text, "Happy birthday, darling. Need to talk to you." We had this like crazy torrid affair. And he calls me and I'm thinking like he needs to tell me happy birthday and he's surprising me and he's, I don't know, taking me to somewhere. I don't know. And then he was just like, hey, I need a favor from you. Of course, in your head, you're like, it's your birthday. This is your boyfriend. Everything's going great, right?
Right. Yeah. Darling. He's no signs of anything.
No, yeah, no, he told me on my birthday he was married and he had been lying to me about being married. And yeah, happy 29th birthday to me.
Wait. Whoa. Let's rewind.
Yes.
Wait, so he told you that, but like because he said he wanted to, he texted you.
He needed
face to face. Did he tell you this?
Nope. He called me on the phone and said he had been lying to me and that he was married and his wife was going to reach out to me and to please lie to her and say that, like, I was like, well, what did you tell her about me? Because she found out about me. And he was like, I told you we worked together and that's it. We didn't work together. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to lie to her if she reaches out to me. Sorry. I stand with my sisters. I don't stand with you. But I was so heartbroken.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm getting over this heartbreak.
On your freaking birthday?
On my fucking birthday. On my 29th birthday too. That's like,
wait, the day after, the day before even? No, on your birthday.
On my birthday. So God, that was the worst birthday. So I'm at their live show and I was straight up like, here's the story. Cause like at this point, it's been so long now. Like that story doesn't even, like, I don't even feel that, like, you know, that twinge when you're still getting over something that you feel in your heart, like, oh, that's still sad. I don't even feel that anymore. He's irrelevant in my life. Yeah. Actually, last I heard, he got deported and had to go back to England. Yeah.
Okay. Well, payback. If that's payback, but now
bye boy.
Yeah, he's out of your air space.
Exactly.
Miles away.
Bye. So I'm telling them this story and they start prank calling him and we find out, this is like the cherry topping to everything, he was using a burner phone with me the entire time.
Oh no.
Yes.
So yeah, this was not, he planned this from the get-go.
He methodically planned it all out. Yeah.
What a asshole.
But it was so fun, like being able to be on stage like with two of your like favorite comedians who are just like these badass chicks, and then like them being like, we're gonna prank call your boyfriend. In October of last year, Corinne Fisher came out to Vegas and played Wise Guys. And I went up to her and I was like, you probably don't remember me, but being on stage with you and Christina changed my life, just so you know. I was like, ever since then, I started a podcast. I did this, I did that, da-da-da-da-da. You guys are amazing. And she was just like, oh, thank you.
Oh my goodness. So really from that moment came the fuel.
Transition. Yeah.
Wow. To start your podcast and everything.
Yeah,
that is amazing. And the fact that you got to tell them that too.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. Yeah, seriously, it was like I went to, the way that everything panned out, he broke my heart. I see them live immediately, like seriously, like probably 3 days after I saw them live, I went to Australia. Well, I went to Fiji first and then I went to Australia. Don't go to Fiji alone when you're heartbroken, by the way. That's a very romantic destination to be when you're heartbroken.
Okay, for all the couples out there, go to Fiji. For all the singles, maybe you just got broken up or you broke up with somebody, take it from Brie. Do not go there.
Went to Fiji for a little bit, then went to Australia, then came back, and I started a job at the radio station. At a radio station I no longer work at, but at a radio station, and linked up with MJ again. I've known MJ since I was 19 years old.
Oh, and yeah, you guys go way back.
We do. We go way, way, way back. Then she went out on maternity leave. When she came back, we started our podcast. And yeah, it just kind of was like this huge chain of events. And I definitely got to tell at least one of the hosts, like, you inspired this, you helped this. And then when I went through in 2019, I went through a really, really, really bad breakup with a guy who cheated on me and ended up marrying the girl he cheated on me with.
Oh God, these assholes.
Well, they're fine. You know what? I look at it this way. Every time this has happened to me, it's one step closer to what I want, because that wasn't what I was supposed to have. I really have that trust in the universe that it's going to bring me what I'm supposed to have and teach me lessons from what I'm not supposed to have. Because even after this guy and I broke up, I had a really good relationship. Didn't work out just because we weren't making each other happy, but it wasn't like this torrid breakup, like we were cheating on each other and we were fighting. It was just kind of like, I'm not happy, you're not happy, let's be friends, and we're still friends. Like we've hung out since then. In 2019, I go through this crappy breakup, and then they do a Valentine's Day episode where they're like, send us your emails of your terrible breakup. So I was like, oh, I got one. And they read it, and I was like, oh my God, if anybody who knows me and knows this guy, there's like details that they're going to know everything, because there's details I never talk. I don't like to shit talk my partners to my friends even after they broke up too much. Because
except when it's on a podcast.
Whoa, I did shit talk him a lot, but also I never told every single detail. And it was always because it's always that little thought, like, what if you, like, you know how you have those friends that like complain about their boyfriends all the time, and then they break up and they get back together and break up and get back together. I never want to be that girl.
It's happened. Yeah, it's happened.
Never want to be that girl. So I never tell the full enchilada until I know like it's never going to happen again. That's what happened with this guy. And that email I sent them where I gave every single detail, I was like, I hope were they engaged yet? I think they were. It's like, I hope his fiance doesn't listen to this show and hear this, because she knew about me, so it would be very easy to like pin down everything.
Yeah. Well, it's like too late now. Whoopsie daisy. Pray to baby Jesus that it all goes well, but it's a done deal now.
But yeah, I was just like, I sent in the email like not even thinking they were gonna read it, and then they read it and they were like talking so much shit about him through this thing, and I was like, oh no.
It's like you never know, right, if they're gonna read your story too, and then the odds that they read your story, you're like, oh my God.
Exactly. I'm a big advocate of whom I date on my podcast. I don't name them. I don't give them a name. I don't name them. I will give them a nickname or something, because I feel like there's some sort of like they should be able to be anonymous and not be like, oh, you're that dick. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Like their name is not part of the story. Like the story has the power and the message in it. So the name,
doesn't matter.
Why it doesn't matter. Yeah.
I don't give them names. And maybe one day when I meet a partner who I feel is worthy of like really, really worthy and long term, they'll get a name. But yeah, I mean, MJ says her husband's name on the podcast, but they've been together. God, they've known each other as long as MJ and I have known each other almost. So they're not going anywhere. Yeah.
So I love that you guys cover like all grounds and all types of relationships.
I tend to notice that I bond with girls who are in relationships more than all my girlfriends are in really, really serious relationships or marriages. I don't have a lot of single girlfriends, and I don't know why that is about me, but I think it's because they have things in their relationships that I aspire to find in mine eventually.
You're surrounding yourself with people that, when you come in that concept where like with financial success and you want to become a millionaire, they always say surround yourself with millionaires.
Yes,
right. So I think it's just that like that way, but with
surrounding yourself with successful relationships. That's like, yeah, I like that. I mean, because I do surround myself with mostly financially successful people too, so that makes sense. And I don't worry about my finances really. Like, I've hustled my whole life, so finances are okay now. It's like, okay, let's look at my romantic side. I was talking to a comedian the other night, and he was like, people are afraid of you though because you have a podcast and you'll talk about he's like, guys have this fear in the back of their mind that you'll say something. And I was like, well, that's smart of them, because I will.
Yeah, and you better be careful and don't mess with me.
Don't mess with me. So my journalistic instincts are coming through. I know you're interviewing me, but I want to interview you too. So how long have you and your partner been together?
We've been together, married, going on 17 years this year, which is insane.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So, and then together about 19 years to go. Oh my God, saying in that out loud, it's insane to me, because the next follow-up look or question people say, they look at me weird. They're like, wait, Will, how old are you then? I'm like, can we go back? Let's retract to how long we've been married. But yeah,
I thought you were younger than I am. I
am turning like 35 this year.
Oh, me too. I seriously thought you were like 26.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll take it as long as I can, because I know that's not going to last forever. Turning 35, 17 years married. So yeah, we've been together for quite a long time, but I was married at 18. So we've gone through like everything, right? And if we go back to like our sexual health, like, can you imagine, like, we've, as just sexual beings or just people in general, we've changed. So we've had to been in line with communication and our changes and what we like, what we don't like.
You know, one of the things that I always say when it comes to relationships too is if you're feeling a disconnect, your partner is too. Period. It's not just you. Usually if you're feeling that disconnect, your partner is too, and you either have to figure out, like, do you want it to work? Okay, then figure out a way to communicate and bring yourselves back to each other and figure out what that disconnect is. If you don't want it to work, then that's on you. But I believe in making things work.
Yes, that's so true, because you can't just assume that they know that just because you're giving signals and signs of things that you want or like. You have to openly have these conversations with your partner, even if it's just the beginning where you're a month in and now you're 5 months in and like, I want something different. Like, you need to have these conversations no matter 15 years in.
I've noticed that sometimes if it's a conversation I'm really, really nervous to have, it's easy to start a text conversation about it. And then, like, you know, it's like, okay, well, let's talk in person about this too. It's easy to start off with like a little text conversation, like, hey, notice this, blah, 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 blah.
So if someone is struggling, how do I start a conversation with somebody or my partner? Maybe start it with text, break the ice that way.
I had somebody, I can't remember if it was a friend that asked me or if it was a listener that wrote in. I'm sure I've given this advice both in person and on the podcast, but she was like, I want to try this thing sexually. I don't know how to bring it up to my partner. And I was like, read erotica together and be like, hey, that's hot. Why don't we try that? Or watch porn together and say, hey, like, I really like that position. Maybe we should try that. You've been married for 17 years. So one thing that I really stress is like your love language changes. Your partner's love language changes. Who you are as a sexual being will change. Who your partner is as a sexual being will change. And you have to learn and grow together with that. And I'm sure you're like, yeah, I've been with my husband since I was 18. He's not the person that he was then, and I'm not the person that I was then. So you guys had to learn and grow and relearn each other as people, as partners, as individuals too.
Yes. And you've taken, I'm sure, that love language test to find out what your love language is. What is yours? I'm curious.
Mine is physical touch. Which makes a lot of sense for me, because I don't let just anybody touch me. I don't let just anybody hug me. I don't really touch is a very intimate thing for me. When I share hugs, it's with people that I love, even just a hug. If I'm going to make out with somebody or, you know, be intimate with somebody or have sex with somebody, that means I'm letting you into a very, very sacred part of me. And I'm not just saying that like you can't have casual sex, because I've done that, but it's also like, even if it's just casual, I'm still looking for a connection that evening. What's your love language?
Mine is quality time.
I was gonna say, I bet you yours is either acts of service or quality time. You seem like either of those to me.
Quality time for sure, 100%. Because with me, it's all about being with you in the moment, just right now. And I want your full attention. I want your heart here. I want your mind here. I don't want your thoughts going somewhere else. So when I feel that 100% from you, and that you want to do that continually, and I don't have to chase you, and it's a mutual, like, we want to hang out with each other, that's my gift to me. Like, me giving it to somebody and them giving it to me.
Do you ever get frustrated with your husband because your husband is a comedian, when he's like in writing mode or whatever, and you're like, I just want you to spend time with me, and he's like,
oh yeah, I get like about me and date night. But it's like, yeah, get over it, girl. He's with his craft. You have your own craft too. Yes. Go play with makeup.
Well, you know what I mean, granted, I've only seen you and your husband together out a few times, but like you guys seem to very much hype each other up and like support each other's hustles, which I think is very, very, very important. Because when we were talking about podcasting, he was like really, really hyping you up, like, no, she's great. And
I think he mentioned it first. I have this memory that he's the one that mentioned, she has a podcast. I think he brought. Yeah,
I think he did. And then we started, he was asking us he was asking me if I had switched to video yet. And he was like, yeah, we're on video too. And I was like, he was just so complimentary of you. And I think that shows a lot.
Yeah, he's great. I'm super lucky, 1,000%. I don't deserve him at all.
Don't say that. Yes, you do.
Okay, that self-love. Thank you. See, I need that. See, listeners, you need people like that can call you out and say, no, you're deserving. So yes. But ultimately, like, yeah, it's just a blessing every day to wake up to him and still feel the things that I feel for him after being together this long. Cause I know it's not usual, right? But it's also a thing that we work on and that we make it a priority. So that's just one thing that we continually do is how do we improve? And because we're not perfect by no means, like we're just any other couple that could easily break up in a second if we let it. But we have made that decision that we're not going to take that route and we're going to be in each other's same team and make it out till the end, whatever that means, however long we can go on this ride, and it's lasted this long. So, and I apply that to children because people always tell me, you've been together this long, even when we were married for a first year or two, when is the kids coming? When's the kids coming? Right. And it's like, I'm not going to be defined by me being in a relationship because I'm married, because I'm a woman, because of whatever age I reach. It's going to come because I want them, and it hasn't come yet. So, I ride my own story, basically.
I love that. My whole thing with kids is like, for the longest time, when I was like in my early 20s, I was like, I don't want kids. I don't want kids. I don't want kids. And it's because I wasn't ready for them. And then I had a miscarriage and I blamed myself for it. And I was like, I had this miscarriage because I constantly said I didn't want kids. I did this to my body. But, I look at it now as like, that was not the right person to bring a soul into this world with. I would have actually, had I not had that miscarriage, I would have an almost 10-year-old. Now that I think about it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine having like a 10-year-old right now?
I can't even imagine having no, I can't even imagine having a kid. And I look at kids for me as like, if they happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't. I truly believe, like I said, I believe that the universe is going to bring me what I'm supposed to have. And if I am supposed to have kids, then they will come to me. And if I'm just supposed to be a cool auntie, like I've been for however long, then that's what I'll be. Because I'm a really good auntie.
Yeah, totally. Cool aunt vibes right here.
My niece is bisexual. And when she came out to me, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And she was like, you're so fucking weird. And I was like,
oh my goodness. How old was she when she came out?
16.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for her.
No, 15. She was 15 when she came out. But the last time I saw her, she was telling me, because I actually don't know if she's still with this girl, but she was telling me about this girl she's like, we've been flirting, we've been talking. She's like, so I just went up to her after class and I grabbed her and I kissed her. And I said, was it a good kiss? And she said, yeah, why? I said, because if it was a bad kiss, then you would know like not to proceed. And she goes, I never thought of it like that. That's cool auntie advice.
Planting some seeds there. Things for you to think about. It's been an amazing conversation. I've learned a lot. What is something coming up next for you of a project or something that we can look forward to from you?
You can find our my podcast episodes last Wednesday of every month. Listen in on Wednesday. I actually just interviewed the owners of Pinups on Tour, a burlesque troupe, and they just wrote a book. So listen into that. And they are trying to get me into burlesque dancing. So maybe that's what we'll talk about next time. Maybe I'll have had my burlesque starring role at that point. Who knows?
That is super exciting. I'm super intrigued. Like, so many questions. Number one, like, have you done it? Do you like?
Nope.
Oh my God. Never. Okay. So you have to do it. So with anything that's scary, that's coming your way, they always say you got to do it. So
I agree with that. And I love, I do love dance. My MJ has openly talked about, she teaches pole. She teaches pole dancing and cardio striptease. I've taken her class so many times. I take heels classes where you just dance in heels. but I've never taken a burlesque class. So I think with all this burlesque kind of lining up, I think I just need to at least take a burlesque class and see what happens.
Well, I wish you all the best. You're going to do amazing. Envision yourself killing it on stage. Again, rewiring the brain, right? What we tell ourselves before even the prep work, right? So I can't wait to learn all about that moment of the crazy experience you're going to have there.
I'm excited for it. And you know what? Here's the one thing that I'm going to leave you with, because even when you said like, oh, I don't deserve him, and I was like, yes, you do. Don't say that about you. One of the things I always tell my friends when they get down on themselves is, don't talk about my friend that way in front of me.
Yes. Thank you for that. Because we need that.
When you start to feel down about yourself, remember you're your number one friend, and tell yourself, don't talk about my friend that way.
Good reminder.
It is.
Good reminder for everyone and for myself, because, we continually talk about things about uplifting, positive. We always I try to surround my brain with that, but then it comes to moments like this where it's just maybe a habit, right? Or just years of unwiring that I got to do, but that I'm not even aware of it, right? And then I'm feeding my subconscious mind by not even catching myself. So the fact that you caught me in that moment, I appreciate you.
I do the same thing. I'll just be like, even if I'm at work and I make like the smallest little mistake, I'm like, oh, I'm such a dodo head. And it's like, even saying that is not nice to myself, and we just have to be nice to ourselves. So next time I'm going to have you on my podcast too. So we accidentally coordinated our Selena shirts. I wonder which artist we're going to accidentally coordinate.
Tupac. I'm just kidding.
I have so many Tupac shirts. You have no idea.
Oh my God. So when I bought this shirt, there was a Tupac shirt I was going to buy, but it didn't end up, I didn't like how it fit me. So I'm like, I'll just take the Selena shirt. So we'll see. Maybe we'll just coordinate the same color. I don't know, but
maybe
this is crazy.
I thought it was hilarious. Like, I just was like, wait, are you wearing a Selena shirt like me? And I'm wearing the Cumbia Queen lipstick from the MAC Selena line too.
Oh my goodness.
It wasn't even planned. I just kind of like put the lipstick on, and I had this shirt on all day, and then I saw your Selena shirt and I was like, dang.
This is insane. You started your podcast because it was meant to start. You too. Met the podcast of the girls of Guys We Like to Fuck for a reason, because the universe knew that there was going to be a motivation for you to launch what ultimately the universe knew that was going to happen. Yes. I'm so stoked that you're doing this. Keep at it, like inspiring fellow men and women out there of a topic that's not talked about, that needs to be talked about. So it's a topic that is just a normal conversation to have. And thank you for being that forefront leader in that field.
And thank you for talking about mental health, because at the end of the day, nobody talks about mental health, and we need to be more open with the struggles with mental health that we have. And you come at it from a very positive light. We all have struggles, but here's a way to, there's a silver lining to every cloud. And I think that's beautiful. And that's such a strong message that you send to people.
We try to send. Yes. Well, thank you so much. I want to give you a virtual hug. So virtual hug, my friend.
Virtual hugs.
Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.